Hey, family. I'm back and I'm still black. How are you? This is Naja, Elizabeth Turner. Pretty isn't pretty, right? Talking about all that. Talking about how we've been molded and trained to see pretty a certain way. That's always going to be our focus. However, I ran across a video recently of Nick Fuentes and Candace Owens. I should have said that the other way. It's Candace Owens interviewing Nick Fuentes. And I'm actually watching them or someone else observing them. And we're going to view that video together because I want you to understand. I want us to understand. How about that? That we, not just us, but all people, are controlled by what they believe to be true. The ideas that you have in your head will control how you act on the world. And you're going to see three young brothers sitting listening to Nick Fuentes talking to Candace, and he's actually insulting us as a people. Now, you have to judge for that for yourself. I'm insulted by what he says. And because I'm insulted and I know that he's not correct, we're going to put what is correct in its place, okay? To get us started, I want you to listen to Brother Ray Hagins. He's very informative, and he's going to explain something, and then I'm going to come back on the other side, and we'll talk about it again. This is Brother Ray Hagins. And if you don't know him, I'd advise looking him up on the internet and listening to him. Ray Hagins, here we go.
Everybody read what you see on the screen for me. The space inside this circle represents my realm of knowledge. All that I think I know about whatever I think I know is depicted right here within this circle. I must keep in mind that there's more to know than what is within the circumference of my awareness. Did y'all grab that? Yes. I start all of my lectures off with this. And the reason why I do that, brothers and sisters, is simply because I am a teacher.
Yes. That's good. Yes. He is a teacher, and I am a teacher. And so we wanted, I hope that makes sense to you. He describes it as a circle. Those of you who've been rocking with me for a while, you know I describe it as a cave. Basically, that we who come on this scene, we have these things that we believe, and that creates the cave of our perceptions. So beauty is a part of that. Pretty is a part of that. Ugly is a part of that. Whatever you've been trained to see, that's what you will see in the world. Not because it's factual, but that's what you've been trained to see. Our purpose is to get you to see beyond what you've been trained to see, okay? So, with that said, I said we were going to observe Nick Fuentes and Candace Owens, right? Here we go. As you watch this, I want you to observe the young men and how they're absorbing this information. And because as we talk about what's in their mind, they don't have anything in there to defend against this. They know it's something wrong with it, especially the brother on the right, but they don't have any information to defend against it, so they just accept it. And because we're dealing with mindsets and how people believe and what they believe, I want you thinking like about that as you watch it. Here we go.
This is what's going on in America. This has failed for 1,000 reasons. Welfarism has definitely, black people in 1940s, stand up. My grandfather, I talk about that denigration and the corrosion of culture. Yeah. That's happening. White, black, whatever you want to name it, there is this intentional corrosion of culture. So do you think it's literally, well, this is just what a black person is when they come out? Or do you think that post-welfare, LBJ, Great Society, this is what black Americans have become, and I have a right to respond to that and say that as a white man, I don't want to live there?
Well, I think it's more nature than people would like to believe. There's this classic tension of, is it nature, is it nurture, is it cultural, or is it intrinsic, is it racial? And I've always been on the latter side of this among conservatives. Conservatives like to say it's all culture. Black America is the way it is because of hip-hop music and the Great Society and that kind of stuff. And I think the uncomfortable reality is a big part of it is intrinsic. One of the big arguments against the abolition of slavery in the 1860s is that, when Europeans colonized Africa, they hadn't discovered the wheel. There's no two-story buildings. there's no writing, there's no written language. Missionaries had to go to Africa in the last century and invent it for the African people because there's no recorded history. They didn't have writing.
So Egypt is not in Africa.
Well, Egypt is a different race.
Okay.
The Egyptians were not black.
Okay, but you said when they went to Africa, so I just.
So you can't let that kind of stuff just go forward out into the world without protest, without saying something against it. There's no will in Africa. Come on. Only people who have no other information in their head will accept that. He's saying that we are born intrinsically backwards, and we would not have progressed as humans had Europeans not come into our existence. And the problem with that is not only is it not factual, it is the biggest lie ever told. Because we civilized, when I say we, black people were the first people on the planet, and they civilized everyone else. I'm going to show you that in a minute, just briefly. We only have so much time. But we're going to pull some evidence and show you that that's not true. But I want you to constantly observe the brothers as they're sitting and just digesting this information. And look at their faces, watch their faces, watch how they respond to it. Candace, she's trying to deal with it. And, she goes to Africa. She deals with Egypt, right? She talks about Egypt because most people know that there are monuments in Egypt that people can't just talk against. The monument is there, so you can't just say anything against it. But the people that you see there don't look black, so they don't assume that the Egyptians were black. Beloved, they were dark black. And we're going to prove that right now. So let's go to let's talk about the origins of humanity. All human beings begin in Africa, and from there they migrate. So let's look at that first. Here we go. There we go. Charting prehistoric human migration. This is how human beings arrived on the planet and where they went. Now, this is not Miss Turner talking. This is science, factual science. That's what we deal with, not people's opinions. That's where they began. And then they spread out, migrated. And of course, then early they would have been walking. And then it moved. This is how people arrived all over the planet. That's Australia, by the way. Those who would have gone south would have still been black because they say at one time all humanity was homogeneous or homogeneous, pick your form. But that means that they were all black. They would have all been the same color. Well, how did we get diversity? How did they change? As human beings moved away from the equator, they received less sunlight. They went into different climates, so they adapted, they changed, they became different. This can be proven. This is what happens with mammals. You go into different areas, you become different. That's how you get Chinese. That's how you get white people, right? Yeah. Now, this is just showing the movement of people. Of course, you know that's North America, going down into South America. All right, that's enough of that. So, only a person who believes that African people are stupid would think that they were the first on the planet and that they didn't become civilized, they become sane, they became what we call human first, because they did. So when he says that they didn't even have a will, there's more than enough evidence to prove that that is not true. We won't do it in this video, but we will as time goes on. But what you need to know, human beings started in Africa, and from there they migrated. As they moved to different areas on the planet, they became different. And that's how you get what we call different tones, different hues of human beings. They're all genetically the same, DNA, that's all the same for the most part. But as they go up north, they change, they get less sunlight, That's how you get white people, right? Let's go. Everyone knows Neil deGrasse Tyson, right? Let's let him talk about the origins of human beings, right? Now, just so you know, there are people who reject this information. It's factual, it's not coming from me. But because their minds make them think that white is superior, they reject factual information that's being put in their face. Don't you be one of those. Here we go. Dr.
The
Tyson.
world came out of Africa to do that. What that tells you that the human species began in Africa. And everybody who populates everywhere else in the world came out of Africa to do that. What that tells you is that the genetic diversity within Africa as the origin of our species is greater than it is between any other two people anywhere else in the world. If you have the most genetic diversity, then in practically every way humans vary, you would find the extreme of that in the African continent. Where would you find the tallest people in the world? Watusi tribe. How about the shortest people in the world?
Pygmies.
The Pygmies. How about the fastest people? Africa. How about the smartest person in the world? Africa. Do you realize that the people who get the highest scores on standardized tests in England are immigrants from the Igbo tribe in Nigeria? We know that.
So that's it was interesting. He chose Elon Musk when they say the smartest people. You know, we know that Elon. We know that he is. Now he's not from Africa. He's not a inhabitant of Africa, but he moved there. He's definitely not the smartest man on the continent. You should know, because I've traveled to Africa, that there are people on the continent that speak 5 and 6 different languages. They are not stupid by any stretch of the imagination. What they are is they're being controlled just as we are, and they're breaking out of that cycle as we speak. You should know of Captain Ibrahim Traore and what's going on in Burkina Faso. That should stimulate your soul. Check into that if you're not aware. But to say that African people are dumb and to believe that is to be in an inferior state of mind, and it is detrimental to your well-being. So if you think like that, I'm going to ask you to work on fixing that, okay? Let's go back to Candace and Nick.
Just want to.
The interior of Africa in the late 19th century, scramble
Okay,
for
so
Africa.
we're now knocking Egypt out of Africa.
Well, Egypt is
black.
part of northern Africa,
Right, but
sub-Saharan
it's
Africa.
Africa. You said Africa, so I'm being. It's not. I'm not trying to be. I'm not trying to get a gotcha. I'm just responding. You're saying
Okay, sure.
Africa.
Yeah.
It's in.
People do think that people in Egypt are black.
Egyptians are Arab.
Yeah, I don't understand why they
Remember,
think that.
bro, we met in New Jersey?
Yeah.
He's Egyptian.
Yeah, I don't understand why they think that Egyptians are.
'Cause
We're going to the
it's
map,
in
right?
Africa. They are African.
We got to go to the map of
but
North Africa.
They're closer to the Middle East, so they tend to look more Arab than black. Like almost all Northern African countries are more Arab than like dark-skinned black. Like they're gonna look like him. He's
They're gonna
probably
look like
Egyptian.
him.
It's beating so fast, right?
He's saying like in Africa, when they got to Africa and colonized places, probably like Ghana, Nigeria,
yeah.
where black people like that tend to look like us come
Yeah,
from.
yeah.
There was no history.
Okay, now I
but
understand that.
there is a recorded history that
Okay,
they had two-story
so
homes
we're
with
going to go
toilets
now.
and
We're
in
going to
Africa.
pause them for a minute,
when
and I'm going to
back
show
when,
you a map of North Africa, right? And we're going to explain, because everybody, you need to understand, a thing is not what you call it. A thing is what it is, regardless of what you call it. So they call people in North Africa Arabs, right? Let's look at a map of North Africa and talk about what has happened there and why they look the way they do, and be real clear about this. Because people will try and deny what you see with your eyes, but you just have to understand, you have to know the history. It doesn't require that much. But remember, and know this, that there are people here in this country who seek to control what you believe to be true by limiting your access to information. Easy access. I mean, it's out there, but they don't put this on the news. They don't they don't broadcast this live. So here's a map of North Africa. Up there you see Egypt, Libya, Algeria, Morocco. Right? Right across, what's next to it is the Mediterranean Sea, and across from that is Europe. So remember, we talked about the migrations of people, how they left Africa. They became different, and then they come back as something different. So Europeans come back into Africa, and actually, Egypt is not the first place they come. In fact, they come all across the Mediterranean Sea into Tunisia, Libya. So when you look at those people all across North Africa, they look brown. People call them Arabs. Give them a new name, right? They're not what you call. They are what they are, and what they are mixed people. They were black. Europeans came in across the Mediterranean Sea, sometimes by force, sometimes as friend, because black people, they welcomed them in. But then they came in, and then they started to mix with the Egyptians, with the Libyans, the Algerians, and the Moroccans. So they changed their complexion. So when they talk about Africa, they try and make a distinction between those mixed race Arabs, and then they call them sub-Saharan Africans because they're much darker. What that means is the European hasn't penetrated into inner Africa yet. And I take you back to that brother Ibrahim Traore, who's over there in Burkina Faso. And if he has anything to say about it, they won't penetrate much further, right? You have to understand, and I'm going to take this currently, that when you mix black and white, you get brown. And so when people look at Egyptians, they say, oh, those are different people. They're brown. They're Arabs. But you have to know they're just mixed race people. And I'm going to say this, I'm going to throw this out there quickly, and then we're going to run. The process that occurred in Egypt, Libya, and Algeria, all across the north, is the same process that we're undergoing right here in the United States. We are going from the people who were brought here that were a dark black hue, and the decisions that we are making, the stress that we are under. Darker skinned people catch much more hell in life. They're much more likely to be in prison. And you know this. There's a preference amongst some of us, I can't say all of us anymore, for lighter skinned children. And if that's in your head, that's what you desire, then you're going to make choices based on that, right? And those choices become life choices that you have to live with even when you find out that what you believe to be true is not true. I hope that makes sense. Egyptians were black. They're not now because the European came in and changed their complexion. That's the only thing that has happened there. Okay, let's go back to Candace and Nick.
Europeans got over there. They wasn't like they were so dumb, but like
let's see their
they
point.
didn't have wheels or talking.
Let's see their point.
It
Nobody
wasn't
believed
like
me
they
at
were
first,
so
but now
dumb.
everybody
Such
wants
an
a pair.
insult.
My friends roasted me for buying miracle glasses online.
But you can cut that
They
out,
said
right?
I got scammed.
And invented for the African people because there's no recorded history. They didn't have writing.
So Egypt is not in Africa.
Well, Egypt is a different race. The Egyptians
See?
were not black.
Okay, but you said when they went to Africa, so I just want to.
The interior of Africa in the late 19th century, scramble
Okay,
for
so
Africa.
we're now knocking Egypt out of Africa.
Well, Egypt is part of northern Africa,
Right, but
sub-Saharan
it's Africa. You said Africa, so it's not. I'm not trying to be. I'm not trying to get a gotcha. I'm just responding. You're saying
Okay, sure.
Africa.
Yeah.
It's in Africa. It's Egypt. It's kind of ridiculous that there was no written language.
Well,
so I'm just trying to get you to.
Sure.
You know,
Egyptians are not
If
Africans.
I'm not pushing back, the internet will. So
Egyptians are not racial Africans. When I say African, I'm
So,
saying sub-Saharan African.
Candace,
okay.
Black
You see,
people that-
Candace knows that she should respond to that. She has something in her soul. She's sitting there as a black woman. Something in her soul tells her that that's not right. But the only thing she knows is Egypt, right? She doesn't know about all of the history of inner Africa. She doesn't know that the European went in through Africa, pulled all the books, like, they like to burn books, pulled all the books and information out of Africa, took it up into Egypt, where they were at the time, and then they went through this process of destroying information, that happened all over Africa. See, she doesn't know that. I do. So to say that they didn't have information in the will, that's a lie. Here we go.
Said if you free them without any assimilation, without any kind of process for them to be acclimated, they're going to die. And that's exactly what happened. Many of like the bottom 10% of like the lowest IQ Africans just died off for generations. And it had a, you know, pardon the expression, but it had a eugenic effect because
Stop.
over time, if the
We cannot let that just go forward with him saying, because people will receive it and accept it and it becomes their fact. That's not a fact. 10% died off. Africans didn't die off in slavery. They were killed. I hope you understand that. They were beaten, butchered, mistreated, and killed. That's why some of them died off. And many people believe this, and they're going around thinking, well, we're the 90% who were the strong ones who survived. Don't believe that. I mean, we're strong. I'm not saying we're weak. However, don't believe that those who succumbed to this destructive system were the weak ones, because that's a lie. Let's go.
if the weakest are dying off, that's one argument for why blacks in America have a standard deviation higher IQ than the blacks in sub-Saharan Africa. So
That's a lie.
You know, so I do believe there is something intrinsic going on there. And what makes people uncomfortable about this is the idea that it's unchangeable. There's something about, and this is why I'm a Catholic,
I can't do it.
we do have an inherent.
Watch this.
This shit crazy. He just said, no matter what, bitch, you black, you dumb, bitch.
He said,
This shit
no,
crazy. I know.
he said the
He finna
dumbest,
throw up.
he said the bottom 10% of slaves. He said they started dying off, and then he said it became eugenics, so it became in their DNA to
Oh
be
my
too stupid to
God.
survive, and it was passed
Okay,
down.
I got to stop
He
right
said
there
we're
at that
seeing it-
word eugenics. I did a whole course on eugenics and what that is. It is the process, and only Europeans have this thought in their mind. Eugenics wasn't anything that Africans were trying to accomplish. Eugenics is the process of creating, selecting the people who are allowed to procreate, those who can make babies, and picking those who you think have the best genes and allowing them to go forward, while at the same time attempting to sterilize those who you don't want to reproduce. So in a racist society as we're in, you can see that white people would be the people that they would want to procreate, and black people are the ones you would think we don't want them to procreate. That's what eugenics was. So when they say it goes into your DNA, that's a lie. It makes no sense. Remember, another thing I've taught before is we create words, right? Words don't just drop down from heaven. We create them to express ourselves. So eugenics, black people, we don't even have a desire for that. That's a European thing, and we can talk more later about why that is so. Let's go.
Today.
Crazy, bro.
That's insane.
Hey, Nick.
Shit.
Hey, bro.
He said too stupid to survive.
He said,
Oh my
he said they were the
God.
lowest IQ slaves, and he said they died off the bottom
Oh,
10%. And he said they just kept dying for years. He said they passed them genes down.
Hey.
So now he's saying these stupid blacks are ancestors of the bottom 10% slaves that was too stupid to survive, and you're too stupid to live in society. Pretty much what
Oh
he
my
just
God,
said.
bro. If it's like
That's a very thought out take. I'm not gonna lie.
A very thought
nobody
out
can
take.
ever
Crazy,
say
though.
Charlie Kirk is extreme as Nick at all.
Nah, you
It's not
can't.
even close.
You can't. This is crazy.
Now this is funny, bro. Oh my God.
Okay, stop
bro.
that, please.
Hey, Nick is dead.
Do you get the impression that they're in agreement with what he's saying? I do. Do you get the impression that some of them think it's funny that what he's saying? Now, the internet is a strange thing. It's a strange bird because you don't know where people are coming from. You don't know if they're just saying that in order to get people to create controversy or what. However, I want you to know that if they truly believe that, understand that the decisions that they're going to make, right? That's because that's what this is about. As we start to wrap this up, I want you to understand that people are controlled by what they believe to be true. And if you don't have easy access to the information and the history that teaches you the truth of the world, then you'll walk around just like these gentlemen, believing as they do, that black people are inferior. In fact, you look in the dictionary, you look up the word white. Malcolm told us this. White is innocent, pure, good. Everything that's positive is seen in the word white. Black is the opposite. Everything that's negative is seen in the word black. Black, ugly, black. Now, that's somebody's opinion. You have to understand that. There's a difference between fact and opinion. And we must not live our lives based off of the opinions of others. They might see black as a negative. But if you're walking around and that's your perception, and you see black as negative, and you are black, understand what that means to your soul. Yes. Either you have to change how you call yourself. Maybe that's why people are saying, I'm not black. As we are also changing too, right? As we're making choices as to who to marry, who to have babies with. If you see black as something negative, it's really easy to make a choice. You don't want to reproduce that. You don't want to recreate something that's black, that's negative and bad. Understand, we're only talking about mindset, you guys. It's all about mindset. We'll watch a little bit more of this and then we're going to wrap up, okay?
Ass though. He's dead ass. That's what's more funny though. I was like, nah, Nick funny. Everybody was so like sitting in the clip. I was like, nah, man, Nick. I be feeling like Nick playing because the way he be
Nick,
being like,
Nick
being
dead
like,
ass.
being funny on the internet and stuff. But he's dead ass right here though.
Yeah, he moving his knees. He's doing this.
Dead serious.
He's dead serious, bro.
The bottom
This is
10%
crazy.
of like the
shit.
lowest IQ Africans just died off for generations, and it had a, pardon the expression, but it had a eugenic effect
They're
because
passed
over
that
time,
down, is what he's saying.
if the weakest are dying off, that's one argument for why blacks in America have a standard deviation higher IQ than the blacks in sub-Saharan Africa. So, so I do believe there is something intrinsic going on there. And what
that's
makes
enough for
people
him, right?
uncomfortable
Let's
about
wrap
this
this
is
up.
the idea.
You all get the idea. White privilege. We want to end up and briefly discuss white privilege. What is it? Remember, we create words. Somebody came up recently with this word, white privilege. And when I first heard it, that's another thing my soul rejected. Because I understand what they mean, that white people have an advantage or privilege, right? But the question becomes, why? Where does that privilege come from? Why is it that white people can walk around throughout the world and basically the doors just open up to them? Why is there no black privilege, right? So here it is. White people have a privilege. It's not ordained by God. They have a privilege because white people unite to protect one another and to give themselves that advantage, that privilege. Why don't black people have a privilege? Because black people are divided. Black people are the prey to everybody else. And brothers and sisters, that's what's going on the continent of Africa. If you watch the rest of this video, they start talking about how negative Africa is and how poor it is. The poorest countries are in Africa. There's a reason for that. We won't go into it today, but I will break it down and show you. We will simplify that, right? They're suffering because they are divided, and the world wants to keep them divided so that we'll always be prey for the world. We're going to close right there. Keep your mind open. Keep observing. Keep learning. And by all means, be proud of who you are.